Hello, welcome back to the second uh, video of my continuing with Obishar. But I begin with a apology because in my last video I mentioned about Uttarayan. Uttarayan is an entire complex where the houses of Rabindranath lay, and by mistake, inadvertently, I mentioned his main house being Uttarayan, which is actually Udayan. So I decided, let me now take you to Udayan. So I am sitting on the steps of Udayan. You can see the windows behind me. If I turn the camera a bit, uh, you can see the entire structure. And if you notice, there is lots of flowers. And in a distance, you can see the bust of Rabindranath, which was made by the Polish sculptor. Yes, and so this is where I am, Udayan. Uh, Actually, people are not allowed here, but I got permission to do a bit of uh, reading out because they said, okay, education. So, I mean, Vishwabharati was known for education, so how can they stop a teacher from coming, right? So I thought, let me correct the folly that there is, and this is Udayan. This was the main house that he built. Rabindranath, the man who built it, not the poet. Remember, the other four houses that I showed you were the poet, right? So let's come to the setting, not the setting where I am in, but the setting of Obishar, the tryst. Yeah, it is spelled Abhasara, Obisara, you might say, but the actual pronunciation is Obishar, which is love. I mean, it's sort of love that is abundant, love that spreads across. So even when you're talking of Radha and Krishna, that is Obishar. That is a kind of affection when you talk of so remember um, this spreading and of joy and love can be of various kinds, and probably in Obishar, which is a tryst, a promise that was made, you have love which transcends the physical realm that we are so aware of, right? If you look at the two main characters, you have Upagupta and Vashapadatta. There are lots of details about them available, so I'm not going into that kind of a detailing. But if you look at the poem and look at the changes in nature that Tagore so beautifully integrated into the narrative, it will bring it to life. If you see the first, in the first, very first stanza, you have the sky of August, right? That's your first. If you go down to the third stanza, you will have the monsoon coming up, the flash of lightning and thunder. So that probably is the murky sky of August changing into a thunderous onslaught of rain, which is monsoon again. And then a passage of time. You have this single line, a year had not yet passed. So that's a transition that takes place in the life of Upagupta and Vasavadatta. And after the transition, we come to spring, April in the spring. If you see the next stanza, that's number 4. So I'm asking you to mark this out because the transitions of nature are very, very important. If you turn the page, you will come to the next stanza and you have the mid sky gaze, a full moon. You're coming to here a full moon night. Now, full moon night in the month of April. So it's again still spring, but the setting has changed from a day into a full moon night. And a full moon night where all the mysteries of nature come to light, and probably it's a time when truth dawns on people like the full moon. Yes, and this poem ends with the realization of probably Obishar under the full moon night. So these 5 phases you must keep in mind, right? And if we go through the poem, you will see that in the very beginning you have Upagupta, who is lying by the city wall of Mathura. Yes, so that's again the city where in the olden times it's a center of learning, center of music, center of all the religious scriptures that we have read. And it was a dark night. How is it a dark night? Because the lamps were out, the doors were shut, the stars were hidden by the by the murky sky of August. So the dark clouds, the stifling clouds that like sort of it's like where nature is standing still and you feel something is going to burst open. Yes, and and against this backdrop of this dark night where everything is quiet and silent, we have a contrast. We have a contrast with the ang- tinkling of anklets, and lo behold, I mean, you talk about sound, and immediately you have some sound of the background. Remember, we have uh, lots of people coming in all around. This is a public place, so sorry for that, but it was so uh, timely, the sound. Yes, so against the backdrop of the silence, you have the tinkling of anklets. Yes, I mean, like when you wear those delicate little anklets across the feet, and suddenly that touched, because it was a dark night. Somebody was lying at the base, and here was this girl suddenly walking, and her feet touches, and he wakes up. Yes, and the light from the woman's lamp fell on his forgiving eyes. The minute you read the adjective forgiving eyes, the character is established. You know the kind of person Upagupta is. He's not like every other person around. His eyes, forgiving eyes. So he's, before even he knows who the person is, you're pardoned. There's so much of empathy in his heart, so much of compassion in his heart. After all, he's an ascetic, not a common human being, right? So, the first stanza, you have the introduction to both the characters. In a very, one lying on the dusty ground, yes, and the other one by mistake stepping on him, yes. It was Vasavadatta, the dancing girl, starred with jewels, clouded with a pale blue mantle, drunk with the wine of youth. What a contrast to the character that we were introduced first, Upagupta. Sensuous detailing. Why? She's a young girl, she's a courtesan, she's a beautiful girl. So there will be the glamour, there will be jewels, there will be the pale blue mantle, a covering, veil, where where it's kind of mystery. Who is this woman? Drunk with the wine of a youth. Look at the sensuous imagery, or its detailing. I mean, she is in a prime of her youth, and she's aware of her beauty, aware of her attractiveness. Yes, and so she lowers a lamp to look at this young face. Again, the adjective austerely beautiful. There is something so different. Austerely, there's a dignity about the face. You can't call it handsome. It is austere, the dignified, respectful, somebody who generates awe and respect, right? So immediately, forgive me, young ascetic. Yes. Having stepped on him, that's what she says. Forgive me, young ascetic. And then graciously come to my house. The dusty earth is not a fit bed for you. Why? Why does she say that? Because you are an ascetic, doesn't she say it? You're ascetic. So she says, this is not the bed for you. You need a the person of your stature, your goodness. You need something more comfortable. But that's the irony, right? It's an ascetic for whom it doesn't matter whether there is a dusty bed or a soft bed or a pebbled bed. He just needs to lie and rest. For him, probably doesn't even matter. But again, if you look from the other perspective, the perspective of Vasavadatta, you, an ascetic, so young, so respectful, so gracious, you can't be lying on a dusty bed. You need to be rested properly. So come to my house. What does the young ascetic say? Women, go on your way. When the time is ripe, I will come to you. Woman, woman, respect. Woman, go on your way. You go where you have to go, because the appropriate time, I will come to you. Now is not the time for me to come to you. Again, foreshadowing what's going to happen. The element of foreshadowing is very strong here. For an ascetic, probably he sees much beyond what you and I can see. He said, when the time is ripe, I will be there for you. But now is not the time. When you need me, I'll be there. I don't come when you feel I need it. I'll come when you need it, because that's my role. That's my calling. That's my duty. That's an ascetic, right? Then the passage of time. A year had not yet passed. It was evening of a day in April, in the spring. The branches of the wayside trees were full of blossom. And I'm so happy I'm here. Yes, it is spring. Today, I mean, we just celebrated Vasant Panchami, Saraswati Puja, and the flowers everywhere, riot of colors and spring. So it was the evening of a day in April, in the spring. Gay notes of the flute came floating in the warm spring air from afar. The citizens had gone to the woods for the festival of flowers. So, this is a time of beauty, this is a time of rejuvenation, a festival of flowers. You know, Shantiniketan, let me tell you, they play Holi with flowers. They don't play with colors. Yes, of course, nowadays, I mean, everywhere you will see colors being used. Here in Bengal, we call it Abir. Yes, Holi ke Rang, it's called Abir. Yes, so yes, colors are used, but originally when Tagore was here, it used to be Holi with the flowers. So I'm just going to take you around, showing you the flowers that abound this garden of Udayan, the land which Rabindranath himself designed. I hope I can show it properly. Yes, I think you can. Here's a riot of red. Then you have a riot of just white. Yes. And then you have yellow and orange. Yes. And there, the lily pond where you have Tagore. And so let me end for today taking you round this beautiful day of spring, April, where the whole town was celebrating the festival of flowers. Yes, and that was the time when probably when Upagupta, when he told Vasavadatta, I have a tryst and I will meet that tryst when it is required. So, till the next time when we come to the second half of the poem, see you then.